we turn at this time to an object of love for the Jewish people and of great difficulty and strife as well, the state of Israel, as it finds itself as we get close to the 75th anniversary of the state. And these last number of months have been a time of unprecedented upheaval, not only in Israel, but in the larger Jewish world. And I want to talk about what I think is really at the heart of this wrestling match that is taking place right now in the whole Jewish people. And I want to put it in the perspective of the entire life of the state of Israel. In fact, using the candles that are before me that I lit tonight. The birth of the state of Israel and its continuity for these 75 years is a miracle as great as the parting of the sea on the seventh day after Pesach. It is incredible and astonishing that a people who for thousands of years had been dispersed and persecuted, that we could bring a language back to life, that we could come together from all over the world and create a country under incredible pressures and threats of destruction from outside. And why were we able to do it? For so many reasons. But one of the reasons why I believe that the people of Israel, not the people of the state of Israel, but the Jewish people, were able to come together was because at the beginning of the state, like the memorial candle, we had painful unifying experiences. Until the state of Israel was reborn, all of our people lived as minorities. All of us understood what it was to face anti-Semitism and to depend on the powers of others, not only for our freedom, but at so many times throughout history for our very survival. And so whether it's while Zionism was created by the Zionist movement, at the time of the birth of the state, so many of our people had just been victimized by the Shoah. And those who had not, whether dispersed and sent away from their homes in Arab lands or far away in North and South America, all of us at that time knew the pain of being a minority, distant people. And so throughout the world, in ways that are documented, in ways that are yet to be documented, we pulled together as a people, those in the state of Israel giving their very lives and their blood, and those around the world giving their devotion and donations and so much more in order to help this miracle take place, so that a country that was the nation state of the Jewish people, and that is what Israel was founded to be. So it says in Israel's Declaration of Independence, the nation state of the Jewish people came into being, and despite incredible pressures and against unbelievable odds, has miraculously survived till this day. And not only survived, but thrived to the point where the Jewish world is now like the candles of the holiday. The world is naturally divided in two. The Israeli world, which makes up almost half of the Jews in the world, and where over 75% of the Jewish population there were born in Israel speaking Hebrew. And the rest of our diaspora, living as we do here in Toronto, in Canada, all over the world, with very different experiences. We now live in a bifurcated Jewish world, and in a time, both in the land of Israel and around the world, where the external threats that existed that helped bring the state of Israel into being are no longer the same. While security is a major concern for the state of Israel, it is a regional power. It is not the moment to moment fledgling state that was present at its birth, and it has flourished in a sense of being able to defend itself. And yet it was so busy defending itself in the creation of the country that there was no time for a constitution. There was no time to take the basic nature of the country and to define it. We've always known, and we say proudly, that Israel is a Jewish and democratic state. It is a democratic and Jewish state. And what we're experiencing in the last 3 months is a reality that is true both in the land of Israel and between Israel and the diaspora, that we have no shared common definition among the people of the state of Israel or the worldwide people of Israel for the nature of Judaism and the character of democracy. There is no definition of them in Israel. And in Israel, we now live in an incredibly divisive time where those who disagree do so as strongly as always, but tend in every country, including our own, to view those who disagree as the enemy. And so it's frightening to see Israeli society as fractured as every other society in our world, but trying to do so, again under incredible pressure, as a democracy that's never defined itself, for a Jewish people that has no clear-cut definition of whether that's an Orthodox or a pluralistic people. And what kind of democracy are we? One of the majority? Or one of all the citizens of the state of Israel? These painful issues are not easily solved and are not about a day's politics. Major populations in the state of Israel have no interest in either democracy or the kind of pluralistic Judaism that is really the only reality in the diaspora for the Jewish people. That even those who live a fully Orthodox life outside the land of Israel are aware of the many forms of Judaism, and we coexist with one another. But in Israel, as we speak, we have populations such as the almost 10% of Israeli population that is ultra-Orthodox and that rejects any compromise with any other Jewish way of being, and that likewise rejects democracy. And likewise, we have a right wing of Israeli politics that is part of this government in a way it never has been before, that rejects the idea of minority rights as an essential element of democratic living. Will Israel come to some kind of resolution on these ideas? Will Israel, which is really right now experiencing an identity crisis that we've been watching form for more than a decade, will the Israel made up of so many different ideas and populations be able to hold itself together and find its way forward in a way that is healthy? I believe that is possible, but I can't see the path myself. But what I do know is one thing. I think that is much less likely if the half of the Jewish people that live in the diaspora remain silent. That many of us are told that we shouldn't take sides and we shouldn't speak up because Israel has to work this out. If we had taken that attitude in 1948 and the decades that followed, there never would have been an Israel that survived. And today, If we take that attitude, I firmly believe that the kind of Israel that will survive will not be a kind that can be a source of unity in the Jewish people, or that can maintain the devotion, the affection, the desire for the whole Jewish people to be part of it and to support it. This moment is one of questions. So many questions have been asked in Israel. We ourselves must be part of the answer. We cannot dictate the answer, nor allow it to be dictated to us in the diaspora, when we know that for those who love Israel with all their heart, and for those in the Jewish people who have major issues with Israel itself, whether its policies or even its existence, that in our world, the strength of those feelings comes from the fact that Israel now is the single biggest factor in defining Judaism in the eyes of the world. This is a time for the next great step in the state of Israel. As somehow Israel began to heal the Ashkenazi and the Sephardi divide, as somehow Israel found a way to welcome Jews from Ethiopia and Russia, as Israel found a way to start to support pluralistic forms of Judaism in a fledgling way in our state. Now is the time when we will see whether we can live with shalom, whether the different and disagreeing elements within Jewish life can find common ground that does not completely give anyone the definition or the direction that they wanted, and yet allows us to support one another. This is not an easy thing to do, and you'll be hearing much more from me and from Temple about ways we can do it. In the meantime, it is essential that we continue to speak up. This new government, which is the most right-wing and ultra-Orthodox in the history of Israel, is in the process of cutting off all government funding in Israel to the tune of $1.5 million US a year to the reform and non-reform movement in Israel, plus other non-Orthodox movements. This is a time where we must support our congregations in Israel and our Reform brothers and sisters in Israel in their time of need. In addition, we must speak up in our community in so many ways to make sure that we say that in Israel that is not a home for the entire Jewish people, that in Israel that has no room for pluralism, will not be able to maintain the support of the generations to come, and in Israel that does not support democratic values and does not care for the needs of religious and ethnic minorities, will not be able to survive and thrive. For that reason, we are joining other congregations in encouraging our members to participate in the March for Israel this year as well. And we will be providing signs for those who wish, saying that we are marching for Israel and for democracy. We're marching for a Judaism that supports democracy in Israel. There is so much more to be said and so much more to be done, and we look forward to doing so together. This is a challenging and meaningful time, but one where we are privileged to live in a time where we have our own state and where we can work together with Jews of goodwill throughout the world and in the state of Israel to see that the next steps in the evolution of Judaism and the Jewish nation are the right ones.